Good.
Buenos días, lindo perro. Sí, gracias. Quería saber quién está presente.
Yeah, there's no one.
Angela,
Yes, Commissioner. You're on mute.
I've been wondering for a long time, is a sports broadcaster related to you on, was it KUTV?
No,
Oh,
I don't, not family wise anyway.
okay. I thought it was the same name.
All right, we're going to call this commission meeting to order. Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for letting us be a little bit pokey in our start. I'll let the record show that we have Commissioner Parrish online, and I also believe, do we have Commissioner Randall online? Thank you, Vicki. All right, so let's go ahead and get this agenda rolling this morning. Steve Lucera is going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
All right. Well, Steve, welcome. We're so glad to have you, and thanks for leading us in the pledge. All right. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the September 27th commission meeting. All of these have been provided to the commissioners in their commission materials provided ahead of time. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And I'd be looking for a motion to approve those minutes unless there are any. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Great. Second by Commissioner Tui. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Minutes are approved. Have a couple of announcements. The holiday season is upon us. We plan to hold our next commission meeting on Tuesday, November 29th. So that is the Tuesday following the Thanksgiving holiday. And then our December meeting will be on Tuesday, December 20th. And so that is actually the Tuesday ahead of the holiday. I will note, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but we are working towards pushing commission meetings to Thursdays in the new year. And so we'll just continue to communicate and look into the logistics of having that. Public comments. If anyone participating virtually would like to comment on this meeting, they may email hotline@utah.gov. And if anyone would like to make in-person comments here, we will be taking those comments at the end of the meeting. Speaking of, the holidays, there will be a couple of holiday closures in our stores. Friday, November 11th is the Veterans Day holiday and the stores will be closed. And then Thursday, November 24th is the Thanksgiving holiday and the stores will be closed. The DABS administrative offices and the warehouse will also be closed on those days. So now we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Sean to give the financial update. And then I'll also ask Commissioner Parrish, as our chair of the Operations Commission, to provide any comments on the Operations Committee review of the financial update. But Sean, go ahead and give us our update.
Thank you, Commissioners. September 2022's retail sales ended up being $51.4 million, which is $2.2 million higher, or a 4.5% increase as compared to the same month last year. We experienced an increase in general fund contributions from liquor profit transfer. We believe will be, is projected to be about $32.9 million so far year to date. And we did finally receive the liquor profit transfer. It was actually performed last week, which was $134 million for fiscal year 22. That is 8.88% higher than the year prior. Do I have any questions on that?
Thank you, Sean. Commissioner Parrish, I know that you reviewed the financial statements in the Operations Committee. Was there anything you wanted to add to that update?
No, we find that they're very complete and that we're going through kind of a transition period with adding this new electronic system, which they did over the weekend, which will update that somewhat too. But I'm happy to report that from the operations standpoint, things are in very good shape. We're very pleased and happy with it and appreciate all the good work the staff does.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before we move on to our next agenda item, I just wanted to note that Senator Stevenson has joined us. And so thank you so much for being here, Senator Stevenson. We appreciate your support and we definitely appreciate your attendance at these meetings. All right. Next on the agenda is the Parents Empowered update. Director Clayson.
Yes, Doug and several other members of our staff are at the NABCA Administrative Conference or Administrators Conference in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, sorry. So I'm standing in for Doug today with the Parents Empowered report. Last month, we unveiled our Whatever Your Child's Journey Go Together mural. This was funded with the $10,000 grant or award that we received from NABCA to go towards prevention efforts, and then specifically this project. It is a mural that was done in partnership with Encircle, the Arts Council of Park City and Summit County, and Communities That Care. It's a mural that's on our club store there in Park City. We have a very short video of the unveiling and celebration that we did there. We've done several of these murals, one in Utah County, one in Washington County. This marks our third, and these partnerships are really great because there are a lot of sort of shared risks and shared factors that our youth currently have. And so it's a great partnership to join forces, and whether we're worried about underage drinking or substance abuse, or some other issue, we want essentially our youth to feel supported. We want caregivers and parents to be able to bond with youth, make them feel important, make them feel accepted. And this project goes a long way in doing that. So Tom, if you could show that video, that would be great. It's broken. Okay, well then we will not show that video. We did test it, but we all know how these things go. It's a great video. It's a great mural. We've got it. We'll share it via social media and our channels there. The last update with Parents Empowered is our team is going to present the Parents Empowered annual report on Thursday, October 27th to USAVE, which is the Utah Substance Abuse and Mental Health Advisory Council. This is something that statute asks that we do annually, so we will be doing that then.
Great. Thank you, Director Clayson. Yeah, please share on social media, but if you don't mind, will you send a link by email to the commissioners so we can see that video? All right, moving on to the violations. Erin, can you give a quick update on what we have on the consent calendar?
Good morning, Commissioners. We have 1 through 5. The settlement agreements are in place and ready for your consent. The licensees are here. if you wish to speak to them.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Orton, I know that you all reviewed the consent calendar in your compliance committee subcommittee meeting and recommended that these items go to the consent calendar for approval in a block vote. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, that was our recommendation. We did ask that we have the opportunity to ask a few questions of VFW, but
Great.
the others by consent.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. So with that, we'd be looking for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Great, moved by Commissioner Orton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Tui. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, will the record show that the consent calendar has been approved? The one item that was put forward for individual consideration is VFW number 3586. This was an item that became before the commission last month, and we had some follow-up questions. My understanding is that the licensee is here. Aaron, do you have anything to add to that?
No, the licensee is here.
Okay.
For any questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Pelham, can you join us? Or yeah. Or representatives of VFW. Commissioner Orton, I'll go ahead and just turn the time over to you. I know that your committee requested that this be on the agenda separately.
I believe the chair or Commissioner Jacobson in particular had some questions for VFW.
Wonderful.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, please go. Thank you, gentlemen. And will you please state your names for the record before? Great, thank you.
Watts.
Great, thank you.
I think the problem we have here, of course, is the way this whole thing came down. If I'm not mistaken, last time, according to my notes, when you were here, you had some questions about entrapment. Was that correct?
To an extent, sir, yes.
Why do you believe that there was entrapment?
The State Bureau of Investigations deliberately sent a minor into the bar to see what would happen.
Okay. I want to, the only reason I want to clear that up is because I don't want you to think that either the State Bureau of Investigation or the DABS is involved in any kind of act that would be illegal. Part of the Cubs program that you need to understand is these minors are in fact go in there. And they do not lie about their age. If they're asked about their age, they are told and they are instructed, and we've never run across anything that indicates that they have ever said, no, I'm over 21 or anything. They tell the truth about their age, they present their actual driver's license, and their appearance is not doctored up in any manner. And so I wouldn't want you to think that somehow this was entrapment. Entrapment is where the law enforcement agency engages in some kind of an illegal activity to begin with to try and get you to commit an illegal act. And so from what I was able to look at in the file that we have and everything, that does not meet the legal standard of entrapment. And in fact, I think it's important that you know, because we have also today, we're going to talk about other people who passed an SBI test, that SBI does have a Cubs program. And these minors that are used to go in there, if they are asked, they have to tell the truth. They have to tell, I'm 16, I'm 20, or whatever their age is. They have to show their real driver's license, and they can't do anything to disguise themselves. And that's how the program works. So from a legal standpoint, at least I haven't seen anything that indicates that either DABS or SBI engaged in what will legally be called entrapment. And now if you have anything that indicates otherwise, that they lied about their age or anything like that, we definitely need to know about that, because that's not part of the program.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have anything that indicates that they lied about their age or anything?
I do not, sir, no.
Okay. So as I was saying, one of the things we looked at here, of course, was the fact that they came into the establishment. I saw the pictures of these young people. Okay. They from my experience having grandchildren, they looked to me like they were minors to begin with. And they presented according to the SBI report, they presented their driver's licenses, which are portrait licenses. your server looked at those licenses according to them for a considerable amount of time, and then went and got the beers that they had requested. So the other thing was that the server had admitted to SBI that previously, the day before, or at some time in the not too distant past, that he had been engaged in drinking. I don't want to use the word heavily drinking, but that he had been engaged in drinking. And he also refused to take any kind of a breathalyzer test on the spot there. Not that that's a legal requirement that he do so, but it indicated a little bit of lack of cooperation. So what we saw here is what I would call impaired judgment. It's not and based on that, and I think the rest of the committee saw that, you had a server who had some impaired judgment, who couldn't recognize by sight or by reading or by knowing what the license format is, that these are probably minors. And I believe last time you said that the individual is still employed with you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, he is.
Okay. So to us, this becomes a pretty interesting, if not serious, management issue. And also during the past month, we were advised that our staff had tried to contact you folks, and that they left that your message machine was full and they were having a difficult time reaching you. And as at least of last week, I guess that there was no RASP that had been filed. Have you filed a new RASP?
Yes, sir, we have.
Okay, good, very good. So, I mean, our concern here is that this really is a real serious management issue. And to that extent, we wanted to call that out because I think we expect to see some big changes. And that when somebody doesn't have the judgment, I don't care if they've been drinking or they just don't have the smarts, or they've had other things happen in their life, they really shouldn't be behind a bar. Because as some of the folks who are here in this room will jump on right away, these people will get into a car. And as you well know, anybody who's got minors that are learning how to drive or think they now know how to drive because they're 18 years of age, that's one strike. And now if you put them in behind the wheel with alcohol, you're not dealing with the same kind of situation that you would deal with if a person was over the age of 21 and had considerable experience driving. So I hope you understand that. Madam Chair, I don't have anything else. I think we've agreed to allow the settlement to go through on this deal.
Okay.
But I just want you to know how concerned the people on the commission were about the facts in this case. And that we hope you will make some drastic changes so that we don't serve minors in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. Thank you, gentlemen.
And I just wanted to add really quickly that
Yeah, please.
I was at the VFW a few weeks ago and everybody in my party was carded, even those who were drinking water. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you. So yeah, we don't expect to see you back here again, and thank you. So Commissioner Jacobson, you mentioned that after a more thorough review, that the committee is recommending approval of the settlement agreement. Did I hear that correctly? Okay. Are you willing to make that motion? Okay, thank you. Moved by Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? Are there any opposed? All right. I'll move that motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Director Clayson, it's actually really nice to pivot from that conversation over to our licensees that have passed the inspections. Can you share some details on that with us?
Absolutely. Tom, can we see if this will run or if this is also broken? Great. As you know, this is something we've now done. I think this is the third month, and it's now moved to this portion of the agenda versus the operations report, because you all have expressed and the agency has expressed a lot of value and importance in recognizing those licensees who are solid operators, who work really hard to have business practices, management experience, management plans in place that ensure public health and safety, compliance with the law, et cetera. So since last month's meeting, you can see on the screen, and of course, commissioners included in your packet of materials here, we have 32 licensees That passed the Public Safety Special Bureau of Investigations visit since last month, meaning they were found to follow the alcohol safety laws and prevent alcohol sales to minors. So a huge congratulations and thank you from the agency, and I'm sure commissioners from yourselves to these licensees for being very diligent and conscientious about public health and safety.
Thank you very much, Director Clayson, and thank you to our licensees for all of their efforts. Does the commission have any questions or comments?
I just want to say, I love seeing these very long lists. They are not cumbersome at all. We appreciate every single one of you. So.
Yes. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 9. We put the violation grid discussion here, just introducing that we, as a commission, have asked to do a review of the current violation grid. So, right, we've this came up in our audit. We've this month was light, but we've seen some pretty serious violations and pretty lengthy list of violations continue to hit our packets month after month after month. I asked Commissioner Jacobson to get the ball rolling and lead out on taking a look at whether or not it was time to potentially update the violations and penalty schedule. We're definitely in the initial stages of just doing some research and feasibility analysis, but I appreciate Commissioner Jacobson's leadership in this, also running this through the compliance committee. Commissioner Jacobson, can you kind of give us an update on where we are and maybe like looking towards the future, what we should be expecting?
Well, sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. We are doing what a lot of people have to do from time to time, which is to, in effect, audit ourselves and looking at what we need to do in terms of our violation grid. We are doing this kind of in a twofold situation. First of all, we definitely want to make sure we're doing what the community expects from our department and commission. And so we are looking at this grid and we've just begun to do so. We're also going out to other states. We're not just going to do this as kind of a Utah thing. And we're trying to get information from other states on how they are right now dealing with their violations and whether they consider our violation grave, serious, or moderate as we do, or where they line up some of these things. We're also looking at the scope of the penalties and that other states are doing and what they're doing. So we're trying to make sure that we are not out there alone, either with our current grid or with any changes that we might make. So one of the things that we are going to really need is some community input into this and how people feel about this. Normally on our grid right now, we look at things as a first, second, and third violation with different ideas as to what the discipline should be based upon whether it's a first violation, a third violation, whether it's something like forgetting to lock up a cabinet that contains alcohol versus over serving when there are substantial witnesses that indicate that the person who was over served and now went out and got involved in a very serious automobile accident, whether that was something that the server should have noticed. So we are looking at all that. We really would like everyone's input in connection with that. And so please feel free to let us know how you're feeling about that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner, for leading our efforts on that. So the commission knows Vicky put the rule that contains the penalties into your binder. It's rule 82.3.102. And so if we get to the point where there's some recommendation to make some amendments here, we will go through formal rulemaking on it. But right now we're just in the initial investigation stages. And thank you again, Commissioner Jacobson, for your leadership. Director Clayson, we've got a little bit of a unique agenda item here, event permit approvals. Can you walk us through this item?
Absolutely. As you know, statute requires that the agency process and preliminarily approve all special event permits. They then, I preliminarily approve them. They then go to you all as a commission, and typically to the compliance subcommittee for final approval. Statute is very clear and dictates that timeline whereby all of this must happen, and that absolutely law enforcement must have 3 days advance notice of the event so they can, plan, prepare, review it, potentially prioritize anything they may need for that event. Just as a side note, as sort of the world is activating and sort of celebrating things and feeling more comfortable with getting together in public again, we have seen the rate of our applications that are coming in, increase drastically. We're crunching the data. The last time we crunched the data, we were up, and I say year over year, by year over last normal non-COVID year. We're up considerably. We'll look at that. We're doing a migration right now, so we couldn't pull the data for this meeting today. But we definitely know that by the end of this calendar year, we will see, a drastic increase this year over the number of permits that we have approved and processed over the last normal non-COVID year. All of that, this is a great opportunity for me to express thanks to our staff who take these applications, who vet them, make sure they meet all the statutory requirements, and to the public and those organizations and applicants who work really hard to get these to us on time. We like to get these about 30 to 45 days in advance because there are often times when an organization is new to this process, or they're not new to this process, but either that application is missing something that's mission critical for the statutory requirements to be met, or there's something else that we need to work through. And if we don't have enough lead time, oftentimes these things can fall apart. And of course, many people are disappointed when an event that is potentially centered around or has planned on having alcoholic beverage service can't go on like it was planned, right? So I just wanted to stress again, this is a great opportunity to just let everyone know that might be doing or typically does event permits. Please continue to get these to us with as much advance notice as possible. On that note, we had several applications that came in very last minute, frankly, for whatever reason, and they are for this upcoming weekend. Entities, organizations that want to have various Halloween or fall related celebrations. We thought the best way to handle these without some sort of expedited service was to just handle them in the commission meeting, since we were having a commission meeting. So you all have been given your usual cover sheet materials that we forward to you when we process these in an unexpedited fashion. And so we have single event permits for Photo Collective Studios for their Clubhouse Halloween, Mountain West Cider Company for their Guadalupe Boo Fest Halloween Festival, Sugar Spaces LGBTQ Safe Space Music and Dance Events 2, Utah Arts Alliance Cider Punk Halloween and Art Night. I do want to call attention that they do have a violation from about over a year ago. However, they do have a RASP, which is required, and we've reviewed that RASP and find it sufficient that they're preparing to be safe there or observe, some extra measures to ensure public safety. Park City Summit County Arts Council, Create PC, Give PC Arts and Culture Hour, and Photo Collective Studios Arts Weekend at Clubhouse. Then there are 2 temporary beer permits, Vestars Yoga and Beer through some weekends in November, and then Summit and Wasatch County Amateur Hockey Association's High Mountain Shootout 2022. So again, you all have been given these materials. The action that we need would be, Chairwoman, is a motion to take a vote with the majority of the commissioners approving these, doing a final approval of these. Our staff then can get these to the needed law enforcement entities within these jurisdictions, so these folks can celebrate in a very safe but fun way on these dates.
Great. You remind me, it is Halloween and I've got to figure out my kid's costume here. I've got 6 more days to figure it out or whatever it is. Thank you so much, Director Clayson, and thank you for your thorough review. Also, I mentioned this is kind of a unique item to actually have on an agenda. Normally, as these things pop up, they're ad hoc and they're usually few and far between. And so we usually take care of them offline, but just because there were so many of them and acknowledging the Halloween weekend coming up, that is why we put it on the agenda. I do want to reiterate what Director Clayson said, in that as applicants are making these applications, that they really need to be giving the department sufficient notice, getting them in on time, because what happens is if we don't have a commission meeting like this, where we can put them all in one place, it's hard to get the quorum of the commission to actually respond with the approval. And so you are putting yourself at risk by turning in these applications without sufficient time. So with all of that said, I am supportive of approving these. I would be looking for a motion from one of my colleagues. Great, thank you. Moved to approve by Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Commissioner Orton. Is there any additional discussion to the motion?
I just want to add on that it is really important that we get these in advance. It's a lot more difficult for all of us to make these decisions on a short notice. And so we really appreciate those of you who get your applications in advance, because this is all done normally, just through email and communications with the staff. So it gets really cumbersome if we're constantly, having to deal with last minute applications. So I appreciate all of you who are helpful to us in that way.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. All of those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, we'll go ahead and rule that as passed. Okay, next we've got 3 extended closure requests. Mike, it looks like you're presenting the first 2.
Good morning, Commissioners. If it would please the Commission, we'd like to take item A, Wasso Park City, and item B, Grappa Park City, at the same time as they are related. If the Commission will recall, in June, Wasso Restaurant requested an extended closure until the October Commission meeting, as they were in the process of a major remodeling to their restaurant space. And while in the midst of this project, their sister restaurant, Grappa, experienced a kitchen fire at the beginning of September. Thankfully, no one was injured. However, this has split the attention and resources from one large project to 2 projects. And as both the Wasso remodel and the Grappa renovation move forward, the licensee is requesting an extended closure for both restaurants until the December 2022 commission meeting. And they have a representative here to answer any questions the commission may have for them.
Great, thank you, Mike. Does the commission have any questions of Mike or the licensee?
I guess my concern is, I'm sure Mr. White knows how to run his businesses much better than I would ever. We're looking at December. Is that realistic? Where's the? Yeah.
Mr. Brown, will you please come to the microphone just for the record? And go ahead and state your name again on the, thank you.
Mike Brown. And to answer your question, Wasso, yes, we're actually hoping to get it open probably sometime mid to late November. I can almost guarantee that. Grappa, however, I kind of just learned talking to our contractor that, we, as much as we'd love to have it open by Christmas and the start of the busy season, he mentioned that, as far as getting permits, with the fire and water damage, we had to rip out a lot of the walls in the city. Grappa being a 30-year-old restaurant, there's a lot of issues that need to be brought up to code as far as electrical, plumbing, and and getting permits for all that. I learned just the other day that it could be as late as February, which is the last thing we want to happen, being the busy winter season.
That's the reason, Mr. Brown, that I wanted to have you come up here so we can help you, because
so I walked in with Mike this morning and I wanted to say, hey, I know we're here to push Grappa back until December, but I wanted to say, I just found out that it might be as late as February. But I didn't want to ruffle any feathers or anything last minute. So to answer your question, Wasso, yes, great chance it's going to be open by December, probably sooner. Grappa, probably at this point, it's looking like a good chance that it won't be open by the December meeting.
Okay. The reason that I'm bringing this up, of course, is I think we want to be fair, and we don't want you coming back a
I'll
month
come
from
down
now
and
or
meet
even
you.
in December and saying, well, gee whiz, I couldn't get Grappa open because, and I understood that from living in town that there were many problems that have come up with Grappa's rebuilding. So Mike, would it be best if we went out to actually, can we go out to February with Grappa?
Sure, that sounds fantastic.
Is there any problem with that? I mean, that would just let you know, I mean,
That would be
needless to
great.
say, there's a certain point we can't help you anymore, but on the other hand, I think it's just not in anybody's best interest for you to come back every month and say, well, we couldn't make it. Well, we couldn't make it.
Great. That's excellent. Thank you very much.
So Commissioner, are you making a motion then to approve the closure for Wassa through December and Grappa through February?
I am.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Orton. Any discussion? I'll just ask a really quick question. I know that statute does actually limit the time that we can do those extended closures, and I can't remember the amount of time. Does staff have? What's the total amount of time that we can give?
So staff is limited
Yeah,
on what they
okay.
can grant. The commission is not.
Oh, we're not. Okay, okay. So there you go. Okay, all right, so through February. All in favor of the motion? Are there any opposed?
I'll point out these are restaurants too.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right, I'll go ahead and rule that as passed. Thank you. Hopefully we won't see you back, but if you need to come back in February.
I'd love to see you all.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. All right, Margaret, item C, we have a bar extended closure request, the Sand Trap in Ogden.
Good morning, Commissioners. I first order of business, I'm not sure, is Raina here in the, Raina, okay, thank you. I give you some background. Raina had a kitchen fire and I called and asked for a closure in July 20th of this year, which I granted her. At that time, she told me that she would need up to 4 to 6 months. So we knew this would probably be coming to the commission at that time. She said she also was possibly going to try to find a new location. In my discussions with her and my continued emails to her, I kept asking her to please keep in contact with me, which that has been the biggest issue, is we just haven't had any communication. And so I have not been able to get a hold of her and to know what exactly she was doing. Unfortunately, I know she's had a difficult time. But in the meantime, with my inability to get a hold of her, I finally sent her one last email that said that her license would be forfeited if I did not hear from her because we'd had no information. And so she did finally contact me last Friday after hours, but we did discuss that at that time. She said that she was trying to find a place on historic 25th Street. And I explained to her that she would not be able to get an extension if she didn't have a place. Now, in the meantime, the landlord of her old place had called me and said that they were in some type of civil litigation and she would have to talk to that. I can't, the rumor, whatever it is, if it's true. But however, we had one of our compliance specialists go by the building, take pictures. It was boarded up as he had said. So we knew that that was actually true and that she has not been in the premises. I can't speak to how long she's not been in the premises, and I'll let her speak to that. So she is here to talk to you about that. And I will let.
So actually, thank you. Just before thank you so much. Before we turn the time over to get a little bit more information from you, I just want to see if if the commission has any questions for Margaret or staff. I actually do want to just ask, just to be really clear, do you have a change of location application in right now?
I've had nothing. I've had no communication with her, not an application. I've not had any further requests. I've asked her to tell me what was happening with her building and what was happening and going on with her. And we just haven't had communication.
And then the other question that I have is, and that's helpful context. The other question that I have is just, I guess it's kind of a technical one. if the premise does not exist right now and there is no change of change of location that has been processed, can we even grant an extended closure? Do we have a premise to grant an extended closure on right now?
Yeah, is Angela on? This was,
Oh, and Angela has COVID. I hate to ask the captain.
No, it's okay. I'm on. You raise a very good point, Commissioner. Right now, the only premise that you have licensed is located at 2851 Washington Boulevard. As you've seen from the pictures we shared, it's completely boarded up. There's nothing, no business being carried on at that location. So right now, Margaret has granted closure for as long as staff is allowed to, which expires by the time you are done addressing this matter on today's agenda. Based on the wording of 32B5309, I believe that the license has to be deemed automatically forfeited because there's no existing premise. There's no basis for you to grant continued closure for a premise that does not exist.
Thank you for that clarification. It feels as though, or not feels as though, as you've outlined, Angela, we don't actually have anything to act on here is what it sounds like to me. Commissioner Jacobson has some questions, it sounds like, so I'll turn the time over to you, Commissioner. And then we do want to ask a couple of questions just to make sure that we're understanding right, that there is indeed you do not have a premise that we can extend on. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Angela, I'm sorry that you're ill, so I don't want to abuse this opportunity at all, but my understanding from the pictures, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's still a structure on that premises, correct?
there is still a structure. The landlord
So
expressed.
what would be the difference between a licensee that was doing some demolition work to rebuild their place and this, which of course there's no work being done, but there is a structure still in place? What distinction do we make here between those two situations to say that there may not be any premises in existence?
My understanding, Commissioner, would be because based on what the landlord has told Margaret, he is not allowing Ms. Olson access to that premise. I don't know all of the reasons why, but that the landlord is the one who boarded it up and who has been prohibiting access, is my understanding.
Okay, that's a big piece of information I didn't have. Thank you. So I guess the question which we can ask in time is if that is true, that the licensee does not have access to the premises.
Thank you, Commissioner. So now thank you for just, I knew I'd heard pieces of this and then seen pieces of this, but thank you, Angela and Margaret, for filling in some of that context for us as we deliberate on this issue. So thank you. And thank you for coming down today and being here before us. Can you just state your name for the record, please, again?
Raina Olson.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Olson. So do you have access to this current premise? Are you leasing the space?
Yes, I'm leasing the space. I have a 5-year lease with the building owner, and we had a kitchen fire in July, which when they came out, they pulled our power meter, and they said that they was going to take 37 to 38 weeks to get the parts, put in 2 new panels because the 2 back apartments that are attached to the bar are not up to code. So we're waiting on that. This is the first I've heard of me not having access to the building, but it was boarded up because we've had break-ins in the past, like the past year, we've had 2 of them, which they've come in and taken things. So I thought that the boarding up was to secure the building and the property while there is not anybody on it.
There was a mention of litigation with the landlord.
And this is the first I've heard of this one also.
So actually, we talked about that on Friday. So we discussed that. And so that's something you'll have to address because as I said, I can't take just one side. I don't know, but that is what he told me and we talked about on Friday.
It was also my understanding that he was not allowing you access to the property. Can you tell us, when was the last time you accessed the property?
It's been about a month and a half since I was there.
but there is no reason for me to be able to access it since we are not open at the time because of they pulled our power meter, so we have no power to the building at all.
Right, but it seems that we have no address attached to this license to do business at this point because you were unable to do business in that building?
Because of the fire, they pulled the power meter, which I went and talked to Ogden City yesterday, and they advised me that I was able to, if I can get an electrician out there, they can isolate just the bar business and not the apartments to where I don't have to wait the 38 weeks for the 2 new panels to be put in.
Right. Well, it seems to me personally that we have so much uncertainty as to whether this license actually has a home at this point. And we also have the opportunity to revisit your license when you find an address for it to be associated with. You could come back before the commission and we can, we can reconsider you for another license. But I don't know how, I don't see a pathway to extending the closure because we don't have an actual home there's just a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah, Commissioner Terrazon and then Commissioner Tui. Thank you, Commissioner Orton.
Yeah, I just had a question. It also says that you are working on obtaining a city license for a new location in an old hotel on historic 25th. So why are you looking for the new location if you plan to go?
Yeah.
Because for the extended closure, I know that the building owner, he wants to demolish that property and put up apartments, to my understanding, which that's a reason why he.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Tui.
So we're a little limited in what we can do here. How long have you been closed down now?
Since July 17th.
So they're under statute to hold a valid bar license. You can only be closed for a certain number of days. And then you have to be granted an extended closure by staff. And then if it goes past that, you have to come to the commission for us to grant you an extended closure, just like the ones we just considered previously for all license types. So Angela, I've got a question for you. Can you explain to the commission what those day limitations might be? How long can they be closed, not operational? And then when do they have to come to staff for an additional extended closure? How long can a bar be closed before they have to ask for an extended closure?
They cannot be closed for more than 10 days without permission from staff. Initially, staff can grant up to 60 days, and then they can grant an additional 30 days when there are extenuating circumstances. Margaret has granted all of the time that she is legally able to. And so now it is up to you as the commission to determine whether or not you wish to grant additional closure under all of the factors that you have in front of you. Yes, there is still a building there, but it's clear that there's no ability to operate a bar based on all the information that we've just received.
Yeah, so I think the biggest issue that you have here is that your lack of communication in responding to staff has put you in a position where we can't transfer the license to a different location.
Yeah.
We really can't grant an extended closure at this time because of that. And so I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we deem this license forfeited.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Orton has seconded that motion. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I actually have a lot of concerns here that because of comparing this to other situations and understanding a little bit about the law of eviction. My understanding is you've not been served with an unlawful detainer action. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Have you been served with any motion whatsoever from the court to turn over possession of this property to the landlord?
No.
Okay. Since the fire, What steps, if any, have you taken to try to reopen this establishment?
From my understanding is that when they pulled the power meter, that we were not able to do anything until the two back apartments were brought up to code, which really has nothing to do with the front part for the bar. But as speaking with Ogden City yesterday, when they told me that he would allow us to isolate that to just a bar and have the two back apartments just separate.
Did the back apartments catch on fire too?
No, they're attached to the building, and it was a small kitchen fire, but when they come out and they seen that there was not power meters put in for those two apartments, they said that it wasn't up to code and they pulled them. So if there was power to the building, I could open up tomorrow,
What steps have you taken to try to get power put back to the building?
we had an electrician come out, and he did the walkthrough. We had Rocky Mountain Power come out and explain what they needed to do to bring it back up to code, for us to be able to get the power meter put back in.
How long ago was that you had Rocky Mountain Power?
That
come out?
was end of July, right around August.
And that same time the electrician came out?
Mhm.
And why has nothing been done since the end of July to actually restore power to the premises?
The parts for the waiting list, it was 38 weeks.
Have you got a contract with the electrician to do that?
Mhm.
And is a written contract that you could show staff?
I believe so.
Okay. What about insurance? Did you have any insurance proceeds that were due from the fire?
So the insurance that I had does not cover anything for code related, which would be part of the situation.
So you had no fire insurance whatsoever on the business?
No, my insurance didn't cover it. It's not covering anything because of.
And you
because
made a
of code.
claim to your insurance company?
No, I have not, but everything that I read that they will.
Did you
not-
talk to your insurance company? Okay. Have you had any start to contact anybody about plans to rebuild on those premises?
Just contacting the electrician, but now that Ogden City has said it was acceptable to isolate just a bar, which is going to be a lot easier to restore power than it would have been to wait for the two power meters.
Well, wait a minute. If there are apartments in back, they had to have electricity sent to them, right?
It was all on one meter, and that's why I believe that they pulled it, because it was all connected. The whole building was connected to one power meter.
So the apartments were not getting power since July?
The whole building, yeah, there's nobody living there now. There's the business and the apartments are vacant.
Okay. You mentioned that something about you were looking at a different location, correct?
Yes, and since all of this, I was trying to find a new location, which Ogden is kind of hard, which is limited to all the spaces that there is down there. And I did find one which on 25th Street.
And have you got a lease that you're working on?
Well, when I found it, it was last Friday when I called Margaret and let her know that I had found a place. But since was speaking with her, I'm kind of in the ups of now I don't know what to do if I want to sign a lease because of the liquor license issue. But I went down to the city and I talked to them and they gave me the okay, the approval to start the process of.
Is any of that in writing?
What do you mean in writing?
Is there anything in writing from the city saying they're going to give you the approval to go in this other space?
I believe that she called, did she call you yesterday?
It was Erin. She did talk to Erin about that apparently and confirmed that she had been in to talk to them about it. There's been no actual application yet, but we do know that she was into the city.
Okay, she was in the city, but the city has not given her anything in writing saying that this is a good location or anything.
No,
It complies with the zone. In other words, it complies with all the zoning and CUP requirements.
They seem to indicate it would be like at least 6 months to get everything in place.
Okay.
You don't have any kind of a written lease that the landlord has presented you with from this new premise. Is that right?
No, but after speaking with him, I can.
If you don't have a written lease, you can show us.
No, not currently.
So if we were, by way of example, if we gave you a 30-day extension, what would you do in this 30 days that in other words, why should we give you an extension? What would you do in the next 30 days that would demonstrate to us that you're going to be able to open within the next 6 months?
Well, for the next 30 days, I would call Rocky Mountain Power and have them come out with the electrician to isolate the power at the 2851 Washington Boulevard and open that business until I can transfer the license over to the 25th Street and move the business.
Okay, now tell me a little bit about the current landlord. Has your landlord sent you any letters or other communications, emails, text messages telling you that you are evicted from that building?
No, he has not.
If we were to contact the landlord, what do you expect the landlord would tell us?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I know that he wants to demolish that and build apartments. That's his real big go on the property.
Okay, my
Okay,
final
Commissioner,
question.
Go ahead, Commissioner, for your final, and then we'll go to Angela after you finish your final question. Thank
My
you.
final question is if we did, if we went ahead and took this license back, deemed this relinquished, how would that hurt you in applying for a new license?
Oh, it would completely, yeah, I put everything I've had into the business, everything that like all my savings I put into the business, and for it to just be gone for a small kitchen fire is heart-wrenching.
Angela, you've had your hand up. Can you, and then we'll go to Commissioner Orton.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to clarify the statutory provision. 32B-5-309, subparagraph 7, provides that if the licensee is unable to open and operate in their currently licensed location by the approved date, which right now is today, the license is automatically forfeited. So that's the provision that we're dealing with today. The statute does give the commission authority, although there are no parameters as to what factors you consider, but you do have the authority to grant closure beyond the date that staff has been able to grant thus far. I just wanted to make sure that everyone is clear about that.
Thank you. Commissioner Orton.
I think all of us are kind of sad and heartbroken for you. We hear these stories quite frequently, but the difference between the way a lot of those situations pan out and your situation may or may not pan out is communication. And I feel like our hands are tied, not so much by, they are tied by the statute, but not only by the statute. Our hands are tied by lack of information and lack of communication. And we have to make a decision in this moment. We don't even have the option statutorily of waiting until tomorrow or the next day to see how things are going to pan out. Unfortunately, I personally do not feel like I have the information to be able to overcome the parameters that are put on us statutorily. And for that reason, I would like to call for the vote, and then we can see how that goes.
Okay, yeah, so that we've had a call for the vote. We have a motion on the table right now that has been, or before us, that has been seconded. All in favor of that motion? Aye. Any opposed? All right, I'm going to rule that that motion passes with one opposed. Thank you. Just to jump in about what this means now. As you're looking for, it sounds like you're looking for a new premise. It looks like you're not looking to open again. I mean, if this building is not going to be there, you've said that the building owner does not really intend to lease this again or lease it for a bar. If you're looking, so you'll be continuing to look for a new premise. Please work with staff if you'd like to make another application for a license. And staff, can I ask that you will support this applicant in understanding anything that needs to be done, right, to make that application so it can come back onto the list. Right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Our next item is we have an industrial manufacturing applicant.
Good morning, commissioners. We have Madera USA in Springville. Their product that they will be manufacturing is hand sanitizers, topical creams, and cleaning products. There will be no items that are ingestible. So application is complete, meets requirements. Staff recommends approval.
Are there any questions on this item? If not, I'd be looking for a motion.
Move approval.
All right, move to approve by Commissioner Parrish. Did I hear a second from Commissioner Orton? Great. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, we'll rule that that motion is passed. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for manufacturing our hand sanitizer, Modera. All right. Next, we have a couple of off-premise beer retailer applicants.
Good morning, Commissioners. We have one change of ownership. Quick Stop 4 in Ogden is complete and meets statutory requirements. For new applicants, applicant number 1 is no longer conditional. Applicant number 2 is complete. Applicants number 3 and 4 are conditional. Applicant number 5 is complete. Applicants number 6 and 7 are conditional. And all applications meet statutorily requirements and they meet, and staff recommends approval.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Just to reiterate, all are either complete or conditional as noted on our agenda, with the exception of applicant number 1, Dick's Market in Bountiful. That item is not conditional. It is complete and ready to go. Is that right?
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Are there any questions? Do we need to take can we take these all as one motion, or do we need to do the change of ownership separate from the new? Okay.
Set forth on the agenda, except that item number 1 is no longer conditional.
Okay. Thank you very much for that motion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
All right, seconded by Commissioner Tui. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, we'll rule that motion as passed. Angela, we have your name on license renewals. We do appreciate you joining us while you're under the weather. There was no expectation that you did, but we do appreciate that you're here with us today. So I will ask you that you go through license renewals with us. Item number 14.
Certainly. Good morning again, Commissioners. The current renewal cycle involves 9 license types. Of the 1,330 licenses at issue, all but 20 of them have renewed, and the remaining 1,310 of them are ready for your approval.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions of Angela?
20. How many of those are bar licenses?
Bar licenses are not renewing at this time, Commissioner.
Thank you for asking. We had to ask. All right. Well, if there are no questions, I'd be looking for a motion to go ahead and approve those renewals. Great. Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second to that motion? All right. I heard a second from Commissioner Terrazon. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Okay, we'll rule that that motion is passed. All right, item number 15, we're moving into license applications. Margaret, you have a couple of change of ownership or restructuring items to present to us.
Yes, sir. There are 3 today. 2 full changes and 151% or more restructuring of an entity. We can take number 2 is no longer conditional. So we have the first one. They are still conditional for insurance. Otherwise, they meet all statutory requirements. And number 2 is also meets all statutory requirements. Number 3, this was the death of an owner. So the restructuring is complete and meets all statutory requirements.
Thank you, Margaret. Does the commission have any questions on these? All right, I'd be looking for a motion to approve then.
So moved.
All right, moved by Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Tui. Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, well, we'll move that motion has passed and those changes and restructuring have been approved. All right, now moving on to bar establishment applications. As we jump into this, I just want to set this up a little bit and then I'll turn the time over to you, Mike, and you can validate or verify some of my statistics if I've got this right. Before us today, we have 2 applicants that are ready to operate. Those 2 applicants, we as a commission have heard from before. We appreciate you continuing to be here to keep us up to date on your situation. Those 2 applicants, again, are ready to operate because they are currently operating under a tavern license. And so if they were to receive a license, they would surrender the tavern licenses. Then we have 9 additional with projected future opening dates. It's my understanding that 3 of them have projected openings after today's commission, and the rest come later. Mike, go ahead and present us with the details that we need to know about, and then I want to come back to set this up a little bit further.
Good morning again, commissioners. That is correct. We've got the 2 taverns that are currently operating as taverns. We've got 3 applicants that are not ready to open today, but will be before the next commission meeting. And then we've got a few more in December and beginning of next year. We've got 2 licenses available, 3 if we include the sand trap, and 2 winter seasonal licenses available.
Mike. So as you mentioned, we had the 2 available coming into this meeting. That's actually a little different than I think that we were anticipating. We had initially thought we had 1 available, but the state has updated some population estimate numbers, and that's added an additional license. So 2 coming into this meeting, and then we have a 3rd available now because of the forfeit of the sand trap license. So currently we have 3 available. If I've done my math right, based on the current population estimates, the new updated population estimates, we will have 3 additional licenses available between now and the end of the fiscal year. Is that correct? Correct, Director Clayson?
3 today, and then 3 in addition to that between, November, December, and the end of the fiscal year. Yes.
Right. Okay, thank you. So really, we're looking at 6 licenses between now and the end of the fiscal year. So very scarce situation. Yeah. So that's in just the sidebar conversation that's happening here. That's through the fiscal year. The state runs on a fiscal year, July 1 through June 30th. Population numbers are a reference date of July 1. And so through the 2023 population estimate number, the numbers that we have now show, yes, 3 more coming. So 6 total. I feel like I've signaled this in meetings. It is really frustrating when we are asking for me personally, I won't speak for the commission, but it's really frustrating when we're asking applicants to come before us and talk through what a construction punch list looks like and whether or not they have, certain furniture ordered. And so when the statute does ask us to look at things like, I've got the statute in front of us, in front of me, tourist traffic, demographics, population to be served, proximity and density to other state stores, retail licenses. We are also asked to look at parking availability, the square footage of the premises, and we are asked to look at the condition of the licensed premises. So I guess we could maybe fit some of the construction into that. But it's frustrating when we're in such a place of scarcity that the position we get pushed into is really having to drill down on, are you able to get your contractors in to grout your tile? And so that is just where we have been, where we are. I would like us as a commission to consider
starting to pivot away from that as possible. So again, we're still operating in this place of tremendous scarcity, 6 licenses between now and next summer. So at the end of the day, that's going to have to be part of what we're thinking about. But I would like for us as a commission, and I know that we all are doing this already, but really to start thinking about, where our comfort level is with if a bar can open within the time before the next commission meeting. How do we feel about that? If a bar can open within 2 or 3 months, if we actually feel like in terms of a priority with the list that we're looking at and what the statute asks us to look at, perhaps we might be okay going 3 months. Again, we need to, as a commission, kind of think that through individually, and then also as a commission, collaboratively decide where we are in consensus. All of that being said, I feel like the consensus of the commission right now, and I will say that even my personal opinion is that in a scarcity of licenses, six licenses until July, it is just too risky to grant licenses on a conditional basis right now, because the statute actually ties our hands on this. If we grant conditional, then the licensee has 18 months to open. And so it's just, we can't, in my personal opinion, it's too risky to potentially look at tying a license up until 18 months, having that risk right now, given where we are. And this is nothing, I have full confidence that none of the applicants on this list, and especially those who say that they're ready to go within the next month, I have full confidence that you're not looking to tie a license up for 18 months because you need to get going and you need to operate and make that revenue. But nevertheless, given that there's so few here, it feels like the consensus of the commission is consistent with where I am, in that it is just risky right now. We need to work with the legislature on addressing this, because we understand that we're putting applicants in a really tough position, because you're looking to hire staff. You're actually looking to invest in your actual infrastructure at the very beginning of things, right? Like there are major costs that you're expending in hopes of getting that license to start generating revenue. So all that being said, I'm going to propose something, and we can have a discussion around this, but given where we are with the 2 that are ready to operate, currently have tavern licenses and are operating, and they've come before this commission several times, and we've held the licenses. From what I understand, and I'm going to turn the time over to hear a little bit about the discussion that happened in compliance committee and if there's a recommendation here, but it sounds to me like the applications versus Lit Arcade Bar and Edison House, which tell us they're set to open within the next month, are kind of coming out as a priority given what the statute's asking us to look at. My recommendation would be that if other commissioners agree on my assessment that it's too risky to award right now, given the current situation, my recommendation would be that we set a date for a special commission meeting. And if the prioritized applicants are ready with business license in hand, or everything done except for they need our license to get their business license on that special commission meeting date, that we award at that time. And what I'm trying to balance is the fact that we have such scarcity of licenses, it's hard to award without the guarantee, but also acknowledging that these applicants have very real costs and risk that they are dealing with, and they need to have some level of certainty that they can plan to open. I would suggest, by the way, that the special commission meeting happen before the Thanksgiving break, so that they don't lose that revenue generating opportunity. So hopefully I've articulated it. If you have any questions and need some clarification of what I'm proposing, I can fill in those details. I would also suggest that
we ask staff, given the situation that we're in, that we ask staff to do everything that is reasonable, that the law allows, that does not harm public safety, to grant special event permits if the applicants are ready to go prior to a special commission meeting. And so that is my recommendation after talking to many of you all, assessing the current situation. It was last night that we got a final report back that the prioritized applicants were not ready to go. And so, just scrambling to come up with a solution here, acknowledging how difficult this is for all of you who are on our list. That's my recommendation. I'm going to go ahead and ask Commissioner Orton to share with us your conversations in Compliance Committee. I know that you took a really close look at this. I also know the Operations Committee took a close look at this as well. Can you share with us, am I briefing your sentiment about the prioritization correctly?
I would say your briefing is accurate. And my main concern is that even within the 3 licensees who are all but ready to go, there is some variation in so I visited all 3 of those applicants, not licensees, applicants yesterday. And there is some variation in their projected openings. And I think those projected openings on their parts are fairly accurate. And given that, I will say I am most concerned about Verse. I do think it's possible they could be ready to open this weekend. And I think that what we are probably looking at is a special commission meeting in 2 weeks, or the possibility of a special commission meeting somewhere 15th to the 17th, somewhere between like November 15th, November 17th range, which it's our hope would give both Lit and Edison House adequate time to get their permits, get their business licenses, and get ready to open before Thanksgiving. So with that said, as long as Director Clayson, can you tell us what, let's say in the case of Verse, if they wanted to open on Friday, because it is possible that they could have their business license as early as tomorrow. So what is possible under current statute as far as single event permits to get them through until a special commission meeting can be held?
So the statute dictating, prescribing what's permissible and what's not permissible around these special event permits is in statute. I would say if they're ready this Friday, we wouldn't be able to help them then, because of course statute has a timeline by which we receive their plans and application. Again, I kind of went through this. I preliminarily approve, send it to the commission. The commission then has to do a final approval. Law enforcement has to get that 3 days prior to the event. So what I would say is there's a high likelihood, and statute obviously really prescribes that special events are not meant to circumvent the licensure process, but of course we know that they're not looking to they want a license. And so they're not looking to circumvent, but the way in which they would host a special, a single event or a temporary beer, whatever it is they choose to do, there are ways that they could do that to show community purpose, et cetera, which would make it a viable application. So that is something that we can work with them or any of the entities on in the lead up to a possible special commission meeting and or the commission meeting in November. And so it would not be able to be done this weekend, again, because statute requires that there's this sort of timeline between us, the commission, and law enforcement. But we could look into the possibility of any of them hosting an event soon after that. And so we would be happy to help work with them through that process so that they could throw a compliant event as soon as statute would provide.
That was my question.
Yep.
I wasn't certain
Yeah.
what the statute, what, like, if they are ready to open tomorrow, what might be the earliest that they would be able to get a single event permit?
So statute's really clear, it's immovable that law enforcement must have 3 full business days to have an approved application. So again, and of course, we would need time to receive an application, process the application, make sure that all the statutory requirements are met. So I'm just pulling up my calendar here. I apologize. In theory, if they were ready, let's say tomorrow on the 26th, and our department, our agency was to receive an application on, let's say the 26th or 27th, right? All statutory requirements are met. We could vet that. I could give it my preliminary approval, possibly on the 27th. The commission then must have 3 business days to consider it. But if the majority of the commission were to essentially acknowledge that you don't need 3 days, right, to sit with the application and immediately ratify or approve that decision, there's nothing in statute that would prohibit that process. And by the way, we have asked the legislature to clean that up a little bit. And you actually are cleaning that up in rule a little bit. That would then provide, let's say, theoretically, the 28th, if law enforcement were to receive that on, let's say, the 28th or the 31st, we're looking at possibly like the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. Again, kind of depending on when we would receive things and when that would be ready. So I don't know if that's helpful, but mid next
That's
week.
really helpful.
Yeah.
That's really, thank you.
And I just had a question. So if we do that and on the special meeting, let's say only one of the one of the businesses is ready to open, and the other 2, for whatever reason, fire marshal pushes it back or there's some delays with the permit, it's not guaranteed that they get the license that day, correct? And what kind of happens to them in that case?
Yeah, that would be the next commission meeting. And again, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. So, I mean, anyone on this commission can make, their recommendation here, but my recommendation would be, Commissioner, as you state, if these 3 applicants that we're talking about, if any of them are unable on the date of that commission meeting to show that they have guarantee of a business license on that day. When I say guarantee of a business license that day, I say they either have the business license in hand or the only thing that is, preventing them from their business license is us, because I know in some cases, depending on the municipality, I'm not sure where we are in these, but or, the only thing preventing them from their business license is us granting the liquor license, then we would approve. And if that is not the case with the business license, then it would just go on to the next commission agenda. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had one comment, and I know through my discussions that Lit Arcade has been in talks with some people about some special events. And I just want to reiterate that if an opportunity like that came up and you were, because you're basically ready to open also, you would also want to work with staff as soon as possible in order to get that special event permit in case, you have an event that needs to happen on, say, the 14th. Go ahead and work with staff on that.
I'm going to go to Angela in just 1 minute. Thank you, Commissioner Orton, for making that point. I just want to be clear that when I bring up the suggestion of a special event permit, it is not to circumvent the law. It is not to do anything that would put public safety at risk. It's just to acknowledge that we're trying to pivot towards a prioritization of applications. And so really awarding in a group because these are the prioritized applications, and acknowledging that they are not ready today, that they're prioritized as a group, but there might be a little bit of variation in readiness amongst this group. And then also acknowledging that we have a special case of a commission meeting, the next commission meeting falling after a major holiday and after a time of what we know in our existing licensees and what we expect with these applicants to be a large source of revenue. So that just to clarify. And yeah, Commissioner Tui and then Commissioner Jacobson. And then I'll come back to you, Angela.
This might be a question for
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you know, those of us who are online cannot hear anyone in the room.
Trying to be very customer service centric and really try to work the best you can with the hospitality industry. I do think there are some things that could be done. And again, I would be looking at about 7 business days. And of course, we would be as supportive and helpful as we could.
Thank you, Director Clayson. I'm going to go to Angela. She's had her hand up and then we lost her for a minute. Angela, did you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Thank you. And I'm not sure what was covered when I couldn't hear, but I just wanted to point out 2 things in statute that are required for event permits. The first of which is local consent, over which, of course, we have no control. So that is a requirement, though, that we will have to have. And the second is that the legal entity that applies for the permit must have been in existence for an entire year at the time that they apply. So for newer formed entities, LLCs, what have you, if you've been in existence for less than a year, the statute prohibits us granting you an event permit.
That's very, very helpful and important clarification. So again, in this special circumstance, if one of these applicants in anticipation of a special commission meeting, or not in anticipation, between their being ready to open and wanting to host some sort of specific particular special event and a commission meeting, they would need to apply with a partner that's been in business for a full year. Unless they've been in business for a full year.
And also, quick reminder.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Yes, I looked at the statute and of course it's referred to as a single event permit. It's not a special event permit. It's a single event permit. And you can either have a 120-hour single event permit or a 72-hour single permit, there's only 420-day permits that one may have. And on the other hand, you can have 24 of the 72-hour permits, if that's the case. And Angela pointed out something I was also going to point out about the existence for a year as an entity. I have some of the concerns that Director Clayton expressed about this becoming then a habit, if you will. So I have some concerns about, okay, you did it for these guys, why won't you do it for me? And yet I understand, listen to everybody here, what they've said, and it could be put real simply, is that everybody here wants to help all of these applicants, period. They would like to be able to issue licenses and guarantee everybody on this list who is qualified a license. We can't do that. I have no objection to what the majority wants to do in terms of a special meeting. But I think we also need to make sure we understand that that can't be a regular way to do business, because it's not fair to staff in particular to have to get ready for these meetings over and over again. To that extent, what I think we should do is we should hear from each one of these applicants, especially with regard to accepting a winter license, because we've got these two and we haven't had a lot of people knocking down the doors for these, but that may be the only way that some of these folks are able to get a license between now and July, or actually, especially between now and the end of the year. So Madam Chair, I would propose, if we could, that first of all, before we decide on the special meeting, that we hear from each of the three that are ready to go within the next month. And that then we address the issue of whether or not it would be appropriate and in the best interest of the community for us to hold a special meeting.
I just wanted to correct the record real quick. As it relates to our discussion for the 1-year entity existence, that is for the single event permits for the special permits, not the temporary beer. Just FYI.
Thank you.
Again,
Thank
I'm
you
just
for
kind of clarifying the
No,
record there.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for clarifying the record. And also thank you.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Jacobson, I think that it makes sense that you want to hear from these applicants. I feel like we've heard from them a number of times. I'm happy to have them come up and brief us. I would just ask, like, what questions what do you need to know of them to make a decision today?
Well, I don't know that I need to hear a lot, but usually this commission wants to have everybody given the opportunity to speak in a public meeting. And to that extent, which has been expressed by several of the other commissioners, I just want to give them the opportunity to be able to have made their statement in a public meeting.
Sure. Yeah. No, well, that's okay. No, Commissioner Orrin was asking if we wanted to put a time limit. That's okay. I don't think we need to. Commissioner Jacobson has asked to give.
Madam Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Commissioner Randall.
Could I just ask a quick question if we are going to hear from all of them? And perhaps we didn't hear this because there was a blip in us being able to hear some of the discussion, but if each of those three applicants are going to share anything, if they could share their projected opening date, just so then that will help us determine if we do decide to move forward with a special meeting, what that date would need to be.
That's great. Commissioner Randall,
Thank
that's what I was looking for. I appreciate that. Let's go ahead, Verse representatives, if you could come up. And you know the drill. So please state your name for the record. As Commissioner Jacobson has said, we'd like for you to put anything you'd like onto the public record. And then also if you could address Commissioner Randall's question of your projected opening date. We have in our agenda a projected opening date of October 24th. Today is October 25th. So if you could give us your projected opening date.
Lynn Cotillo, Bar Manager, Verse.
So projected would be Friday. That is our hard and fast number. That's where we are. Fire battery test just passed about 45 minutes ago. So that is the one thing that we were definitely waiting on. I just got that message via Facebook Messenger while we were sitting back there, but that is done. And we are prepared to walk out of here today if we're granted a license and obtain our city business license. That is the one thing that we are waiting on. And I do have, if it's appropriate for me to address Angela, I do have a question for her on the legal side of things.
Please do.
Is there not a way for the commission to set a condition within granting the license that it does not tie it up for 18 months? Can you not set the parameter of a 30-day Okay, sorry, I'm just thinking on the spot and trying to.
We
come up with,
appreciate, yeah.
With the
Yeah.
alternative. thing.
Yeah, no, we appreciate that. And actually, just on that point, just to have our, our person, Angela, who does manage this to confirm, but again, the statute is very clear if it's conditional 18 months, but just for extra confirmation of that, because if we had that open, I think that would give some of us a little bit, more comfort in the risk. But Angela, can you just triple confirm that for us?
You're correct, Commissioner, given the
Thank
fact
you.
that the statute promulgated by the legislature grants them 18 months. The commission lacks authority to do anything that would oppose that statutory directive.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question on the spot. So as we're going forward, it's really important to understand that our community right now, there's 1.192 million people in Salt Lake City. If you go off of the 2017 Gallup poll, that means there's approximately 4.7% of the LGBTQIA community identifies in Salt Lake. That's a really small bracket. There are 3 bars currently active in Salt Lake across the entire valley or the state, meaning that there's approximately 60,000 people who do not have a safe environment to go and have a cocktail with their friends or even just be there. We offer entities within our bar that are non-alcoholic as well. We have an entire bar dedicated to mocktails for individuals who are non-alcoholic or in sobriety or any number of reasons they don't want to drink, but they can still be in our environment and have that safe avenue available to them where they're able to be with their friends in their community in a safe space. So I completely understand where the commission sits today on the licensing. However, I also understand where we are, and we have jumped hurdle after hurdle after hurdle and met timeline after timeline. I'm sure that there were some pictures uploaded to all of you yesterday. The drastic change within a month, because we met those obstacles head on and we were able to meet them ethically and above board. We didn't cut any corners. We didn't do anything that would tie us back later in the process. We really met these things head on as a team. And we feel like if we're granted that option today to have a license issued, that we can continue to show the commission that there are those possibilities out there, that you do take a chance on your community, you do take a chance on the licensees, and you instill a little bit of trust saying, you know what, we're going to give you this thread. It's a silk thread and it's going to unravel quickly for you if you're not able to maintain what you've projected. And I've said this all along, like there does have to come a time where the commission does step away from the stringent 100% ready, turn your key today. I've said that at every meeting almost, that there has to be that trust from you as the board to us as the community for us to actually establish that line of trust again, because it was there at some point. And yes, a lot of people did take advantage of that. I know that I can speak for several of us in this room that are ready to turn our keys and be open. We are all, I'm certain I can speak for myself as an entity. I know my team is prepared to reinstill that trust within the commission and have hopefully that trust returned to us as well. So that's kind of where we stand today. I mean, we were waiting on that test.
Thank you. Can I just confirm then, because that was, again, this is what's so hard, and then scarcity laid on top of it. We're just trying to do the best we can to make the decisions in the moment with the information we have, because it continues to change, and we're placing this place with only 6 licenses left until July. Now, when we started this meeting, we understood that you had not completed those final fire marshal tests.
Done. Battery test has passed.
Can you give us something in writing here? Can you show us something?
You have a picture of
from the contractor. I can get something from him. Okay.
And Jeremy, can I just ask, so if they have that and they can show that that's signed, that means within 24 hours, they can have their business license from the city? Okay.
And does the fact that they have a temporary business license already make that process more secure, more?
So we're waiting on the DABC licensing to complete our business license.
Yeah, that's what I want to understand is basically, so when I talk about like guarantee of a business license, is that the only thing that you have left?
Have a temporary business license already been issued. It is conditional upon the issuance of our liquor license. So it's one of those municipality deals where one doesn't exist without the other, but the other doesn't exist without the first one. So this is where that finite detail comes in of, we have a business license, we have a business license number issued by Salt Lake City. So
Well, our compliance subcommittee had recommended that Verse get a license at this meeting. The concern that we had was right before the meeting, we were given the impression that this test was not going to be performed until tomorrow.
no, that test went into effect yesterday morning at 10:40.
Okay.
The battery test has to run for 24 hours complete. The timestamp is their proof that that started yesterday. So it's a detailed test, but it only is running the battery pack that backs up the fire system. Very intricate piece of our infrastructure, yes, but that test is now complete, so.
Well, that's good information. That's good clarity to have.
Commissioner Orton, where did you get the information on that it was going to be tomorrow?
It was texted to me by Jeremy before the meeting.
Thank you.
My understanding from yesterday was that those final inspections were scheduled for Wednesday, but maybe I misunderstood.
So the final inspection on the fire, which is the one we were waiting for, is the one that they actually.
It just
take a picture of
completed
the-
today.
Yep. They take a picture of that timestamp when they initiate the test. And then there's literally another timestamp that goes out, I guess maybe virtually is how I would describe it, that ends that test. So it's another timestamp, and that should have ended at 10:40 was my understanding from the contractor.
That makes
And
sense.
I can show you on my phone the message from him right now stating that that's complete.
If it's a test, don't you have to get something from fire marshal?
Marshall Andrews,
That
with
was
the
it.
fire department, that was it. And then it's passed on that photo of the timestamp.
Well, I think it's important if you have it for us to see it. For sure.
Yeah, so actually on that note, why don't we let you, because again, kind of under the principle, we'll bring you back, but just to give you a chance to get that, because under the principle of guarantee of the business license go, that will help us. Lit Arcade Bar. And again, you know the drill, please state your names for the record. We were asking for a projected opening day, and then also as Commissioner Jacobs has asked for, anything that you'd like to put on the public record.
Christy Smith with Lit Arcade Bar.
I'm Nate Smith. Thank you for having us. Commissioner Warren, thank you for coming and touring our facility. And Mike, thank you for coming. We have a functioning fire alarm. We have upgraded our control vent hoods in our system. We have even recharged all fire extinguishers. We have a fire retardant ceiling that also acts as a noise dampening barrier that slows any kind of burn from ceiling, up to the next level. We had a walkthrough yesterday with Treasure Fire and our landlord's fire contractor, so Treasure Fire and Hadfield Construction. All of our fire sprinkler has completed fabrication. It is due to be delivered end of this week. And I was told it's a 2-week turnaround to install it. They're asking us to, so they're putting a fire riser in the stairwell. One thing I'd like to, before we get too far wrapped around the axle, is that the prior tenant had an occupancy of 135 as a restaurant with a license. And so because we filed for a change of use with the city and we will be an A2 occupancy, they are requiring us now, we don't get grandfathered into the previous system, but that fire alarm system fully works. It's been tested, it's been inspected, and there's no issues to that. One other thing I'd like to state is that there's no statute within Ogden that if we keep our occupancy lower than 50 artificially, there's nothing requiring us to have a fire sprinkler system at all. And we got that from our landlord. Ogden City was a little leery about enforceability of that per se, but I'd be happy to put something in writing where I know, I have someone at the door with a ticker counter and we keep the occupancy lower than 50. Hadfield and Treasure Fire, due to the scarcity of parts and materials, they were very hesitant to put a hard and fast date, but I assure you, prior to the next commission meeting, we will be fully ready to open. Again, we've hosted 4 soft openings at this point. We have served food. We have all of our coolers, all of our beer, everything functions perfectly. And we have more of those planned in the very near future. One thing I'd also like to emphasize is, in addition to just serving alcohol, we're creating a destination. I mentioned earlier, to my wife's dismay, that we're really passionate about pinball, but we are looking to create a place where people come in to the state and bring tourism dollars. So we're not just robbing and cannibalizing existing liquor licensees. We're bringing in new money to the state from outside. And in our current capacity, where we've been in business for 2 years, we host tournaments at other people's arcades and other people's recreational alcohol establishments. We have multiple events of those planned in the future. And it's safe to say that over the course of our 5-year lease, we plan to bring on at least 200 to 250, and that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you scale that on all the knock-on economic benefits of hotel stays and airfare, plus what will be taxable for the commission, it's going to be a sizable chunk. We project our revenue after 2 years to be 1.5 million annually, with approximately 70% of that being liquor license sales, so about $1 million annually, and 15% being the games and 15% being our food. I would also like to say that while we're not super excited about a winter seasonal, because we're concerned about the off-ramp and the ability to, like, we would have to stop being in business, we absolutely would be willing to accept that if that's the best that we have to hope for at this stage. We say that with concern that, come May 1st or April 1st or whenever it expires, that we close our doors for 2 months and then there's no summer seasonals available, to my knowledge. And therefore we're kind of stuck in limbo and have to lay everybody off and then rehire, et cetera, et cetera. And we're concerned that we would potentially lose our place in line. But again, we are fully ready. Everything is good to go, pending your questions.
I think that you're here, so you've heard that your application is prioritized.
Yes.
Right? We're saying it's prioritized. And that can change over time, of course, but for right now it's prioritized. And so that's where a recommendation that I'm making is, and again, just for the commission to consider, a recommendation that I'm making is that we set a date for a special commission meeting ahead of the Thanksgiving weekend, that if you can open by that date, we'd look to approve the prioritized applications on that date. Do you have a preference between going after a winter seasonal today versus a special commission or a special getting awarded in a special commission meeting before Thanksgiving?
My preference is to be able to open and operate as soon as possible with the certainty of functioning a business long-term. So I would prefer to stay in the running for a club license. However, if we're out of the running, if it's a winter license today, vice, we wait till July, we'd absolutely take the winter license.
When are you proposing to open?
We're proposing to open 14 November. We were told basically 2 weeks construction for Treasure Fire. We talked to them about an accelerated, compressed time schedule. We even offered to give them free labor, and we are moving. There's a lot of infrastructure in the basement. So basically they're bringing a fire riser in and bringing those pipings into the basement that'll abut the main central load bearing wall. We're doing that work for them to accelerate the timeline.
So if all goes well, you could be open by November 14th.
I would say, they said 2 weeks, best case, they said 3 weeks. Again, they're dancing, but I'm confident that we'll be open in November. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver on someone else's.
Yeah, that's what's that's what we see this. We totally acknowledge it's what's so hard. It's some things are out of your control. Yeah.
What I would love to say is we have our business license. We already have our business license. It's not conditional. We have a business license. We have the local consent from the city. We don't, because our change of occupancy is an A2 occupancy, That's why. And so we would willingly lower our occupancy to 50 to get that license today to
If we,
open in operation.
if we were to go the path of a special commission meeting to try to get you to the point where you were opening as your business plan intends that you open, am I hearing that plan B could be that at that point you would be able to operate at the lower occupancy
Yes,
until, okay.
And again, ultimately, we don't want to open and lose money, and our fixed costs are roughly $10,000 a month. And we have no outside investors. We are bootstrapping this as a husband and wife. And so there's a shot clock on that amount of money. So we have invested, if you include all of our lease payments, about $1 million total. And that's a huge loss for us. So if we don't have the ability to sell liquor by February, March, we would definitely be hurting. We have about $250,000 in assets that we can sell off. These pinball machines maintain their value. So essentially I can sell one per month. That's not what I want to do because I've been collecting these things for 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Sorry, go ahead. Okay. I thought you wanted to say something.
Thank you. And I just want to, and I know the story is similar for all of our applicants, but I mean, thank you for kind of putting into real terms the type of investment that you're making at a point. And I think we're getting to the point where we're trying to give you a little bit of certainty as the law allows us to, given the situation, but without a lot of certainty leading up to it. And so thank you for helping us, the commission, to kind of understand tangibly what that looks like, and hopefully the public and the legislature to understand what that looks like. Are there any more questions of the commission? Okay. All right. Do you have any other comments for us right now? Okay, thanks. All right. And then the third item on is Edison House, Salt Lake. And I know I've said this a couple of times now, but you know the drill. Please state your names for the record. Share with us the projected opening, and then also anything else that you'd like to put on the public record.
Good morning. My name is George Carden Bistry. I'm one of the co-founders of Edison House.
And I'm Charlie Carden. I'm the other co-founder of Edison House.
And we'll try and keep this brief. So to answer your question, we are slated to open on the 9th of November. Our construction, Oakland Construction is our contractor. They've been awesome. They've hit all their dates so far. And they're telling us that we will have a complete certificate of occupancy on the 8th, which means we will have a business license by that date. We understand why the commission feels the need to do a special meeting. We understand the uncertainty that comes along with that. I guess our message would be that works for us. It's not ideal. Obviously, we're losing out on a week's worth of business that would be really meaningful to us. But we understand where you're coming from. To address another question that's been posed, we strongly prefer, and I mean like strongly prefer, not to have to go the seasonal license route. We have a membership style business. And so the kind of risk we would be taking in that scenario would be magnified relative to a traditional bar, because when the season expires and we find ourselves without licensing, we will have been operating with members who are paying significant dues. So that's really not an option for us. I guess just my last question is, I'd like to, if it's all right, ask for clarification on sort of the intent behind the special meeting. And just to confirm that I understand correctly, that if we do show up to that meeting with a business license, that we will be guaranteed essentially a liquor license at that time. That's really helpful for us because, you know, we have business that we've booked through the holidays. And we also, you know, hopefully like right after this meeting, we'll be calling all of our employees to sort of get everything marching in that direction. And we don't want to onboard 70 employees, having them, you know, quit their other jobs and set all of that into motion without the sort of guarantee that we would actually have the license at that time. So
that's great.
I'll tell you, we can't guarantee you, okay? We don't issue guarantees. We're not in the automobile business or that's, I mean, that's just the way it is. You've come to us, I think, in good faith, and we've, you know, I think come and dealt with you in good faith, and we have to see where the world is on the day that we have this meeting, you know. I mean, a lot of things could happen. So I think it's one of those things that if we do have a special meeting, you're going to get the same treatment you've always gotten from this commission.
ahead and just, the recommendation that I was making to clarify on that, and as Commissioner Jacobson says, and we can't, right, we can't really completely bind ourselves or make a guarantee. We need to see, like, if something happens between now and then that changes, the commission's idea of prioritization, that could change. I don't think that it would, right? And I think you need to work to make sure that it doesn't, but that could change things. There are a number of things, we can't make a guarantee. But what I'm proposing, and even the thought behind me proposing a special commission meeting, is acknowledging that the commission in consensus is not in a place where I don't think that we're in consensus on awarding a license, that when there's not, not the business license in place. So a special license or a special commission meeting, my recommendation is acknowledging that we've got the Thanksgiving holiday coming up and we don't have another commission meeting until after that. And it is just trying to provide, I'm using the word certainty, and still on the other hand, saying we can't completely guarantee, but trying to provide some certainty to these 3 prioritized applicants, that they can have some, that they can start planning for opening. If they can come back to us with those things that we've asked for, I mean, I can say, me personally, I will vote to approve a license on that day for these 3 as they've come back. And it's not a guarantee that the commission will be there, but that's the thinking of, we're in this really hard place with scarcity where there's this risk because of when you obligate the conditional license, we can't pull it back. So there's just that risk right there, but then acknowledging the very real risk that our applicants are facing in terms of just real money invested in these things. So I don't know if the commission has any other.
Right, and just to say, your opening date has moved several times. So I think that's just, and so have a lot of people. And a lot of people have been sort of raked over the coals about why their date has moved. And that's not your fault. We know construction delays happen, but I think that's just a protection that we are trying to make sure, because you could come back and say the fire marshal, as we've seen with some of the other bars, has said it's another 2 weeks. They don't like this and to change this. So I think we're just trying to be really protective of that and to be consistent with a lot of the other bar owners who were more ready than you guys are, and we're still raked over the coals. And so I think everyone's saying, hey, unless you want to wait until after Thanksgiving, this is a really nice offer.
Right. No, that's very helpful. Thank you. I understand. And we're in the building washing dishes today, so we'll see. Hopefully, we may see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Any other questions for? Okay. Have the gentleman from Verse been able to get any additional?
Commissioners, I can.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
So they've got their fire is still open and pending, and
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Their fire and their building are still open and pending. The only reason the building is still open and pending is because it can't be closed out by Salt Lake City until the fire is complete. And the fire marshal will be there at 12:15 to complete and finalize that their battery test is actually reached that 24-hour mark.
Mr. Bishop was present for that phone call with them, so this is one of those incidences where this is just a leap of faith right now, is what I'm asking for. I think I've met the goal on being whimsical and making this project happen in a really short amount of time.
I will say that when I walked in yesterday, it was my 3rd or 4th visit. And I will say that I was blown away that they had put up drywall in that huge, but I would like the names of every single person who put up your drywall that quickly and that well, because
it was a 3-day turnaround at 18 hours a day. We are invested in this block, not only from our personal standpoint, but from the Midtown District standpoint as well. It's a really marginalized block. We have the Gail Miller Center right down the street from us. And, we've partnered with SLPD on a lot of different things in our previous business to help clean up our blocks. And that is one of the things that we're, if we're able and we're lucky enough to walk out of here today, this is something where we start our process immediately on helping not only the indigent, but the really marginalized communities that we serve. You know, we're not, yes, we serve an entire inclusive community, but we also have a bracket within our community that has nowhere else to be. So this is just the nuts and the bolts of it are, we have 15 minutes to pass our last test. And I could drag this out 12 of those minutes, I'm sure, but.
Again, this just really speaks to maybe kind of the like misalignment of the way this works and what we're trying to accomplish. I'll look to my fellow commission members to see if they have any heartburn over this. I would suggest that we go ahead and just move on to the next agenda items and then come back to this one.
Yeah, Chairwoman, the only thing I say is I want to find a brick wall and hit my head against it.
I'm sure that us and them and everybody else here, I'm sure we're building that brick wall for all of you. So, I mean, it's just, this process has been a nightmare for every person in this room, and especially for the young lady who lost her license today. You know, these impact each and every one of us in a way that we have dedicated not only our savings, investments, investors, situations where the 10 of you don't even know, because we don't share the impact of financial responsibility with you on a large scale. Every person in this room has suffered setback, either on construction or financial capability or something. So to pivot now for some of us that are absolutely ready and barring 15 minutes or 4 days, it's a dangerous move for some of us. This is we want to be supportive, but on the back end of that, we want to stand up and say, why are we choosing this pivot today?
I'll pause you there and maybe just ask you one question, you and the other applicants in the room, not to single you out, but everybody here. It seems that this issue that we have with bar licenses is based on this arbitrary quota that has been set forth by the legislature. And I think to move past this to something that's more data-driven and aligned with our population, when and if you get a license, you're going to be safe and you're going to be fine. I want you to bottle up everything you're feeling right now and take that up to the hill and help us think through how we can accurately proportion bar licenses for the state. And I would challenge all of the other applicants in the room to think about that.
George can jump in here, correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe the two of us would be standing on Capitol Hill right now today if we weren't here. I mean, right? I mean, this is something where we are in a unique possibility here to help change legislation a little bit to where we're not so driven by that 10,400 number. Our populace has changed greatly. Our demographic in Utah has changed greatly. We have one opportunity to capture this within the worldwide hospitality community. Salt Lake is still known to be very repressive and very shut down when it comes to hospitality, but we are a hospitality driven state. So Commissioner Jacobson, did you have a question?
No,
Sorry.
I think I understand what you're saying. I think what we need to do now
to the next
is, well, we need to talk about this special meeting and, keep in mind that as long as we're still here today, there's things that we can do.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
so
we've got about 12 minutes left. So let's see what happens. I'm going to go back there.
we appreciate you. Really do.
All right, let's go ahead. So we'll come back to this item. Jeff, you're going to present us with the full service restaurant applicants today.
Yes, good afternoon, commissioners. In addition to the licenses that did not renew, we have 29 full restaurant licenses and 3 winter seasonal. All these licenses will be issued on November 1st. As a note, number 1, Ramblin' Roads is no longer conditional. It is complete along with 5 and 12. Numbers 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 are conditional. And numbers 7, 9, and 12 are currently limited licenses that will be surrendering those licenses when they receive their full license. Applications are complete and meet statutory requirements. That didn't take 12 minutes. I apologize.
Jeff, I apologize. I was actually conferring with my vice chair just actually on the previous agenda item. But as you've gone through, given that these are all conditional at different levels, which of those, I understand that there are a number of these that are still actually under construction. Is that right? Or there are some that are actually, which of those are under construction right now?
We would have Hearth and Hill. Cortona is on 1215. We do have the break that is scheduled for 1115. We have Hearth and Hill, which is May of 2023. And we have, that would be it.
Okay. I appreciate it. The reason I'm asking is because I feel like we're kind of, the conversation we just had around bar licenses, I feel like we're headed towards that conversation.
Same brick wall.
In the, same brick wall on the restaurant licenses. And so I'm just trying to start to think ahead about how we approve these. Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for Jeff?
Can I just mention, in our subcommittee meeting, and I think Commissioner Orton might want to build on this. I just wanted to report back that we have 29 full service restaurant licenses available today. On November 1st, we'll get 7 additional. And if we grant all of the restaurant applicants this month, that takes 12 away. And we have been granting licenses at this rate most months, somewhere between, 5 and 15. And so we will run out of full service restaurant licenses in the spring.
I think this leaves us with only 17 licenses. If we grant all 12 of these, we have 17 licenses left, I believe.
Well, plus the 7 that return.
Plus the set, okay.
So it'd be 20.
So, so we have 24 total.
Plus the 3 seasonal.
In less than a year, we've cut in half the number of available licenses.
Right.
So we're headed in the same direction. And if you do the math, by the best case, by February or March, we're going to have the same problem with restaurants we do with bars.
Exactly.
Director Clayson just nudged me to add that she has, and with the support of the chair and the vice chair, she has briefed in our legislative leads on this issue. So they know that it's coming. Are there any other questions?
I wonder, do we want to start looking at potential opening dates to avert a restaurant license crisis?
It's something to consider.
I don't want to.
Yeah, so that's the thing. I think there's if that's where the legislature wants us to be, and they'll signal that by whether or not they do something on this, then we do probably need to go there. But that we just get back into the same situation where you're just not giving them time to plan and have certainty in their investment. So now we have that issue in bars and that issue in restaurants. So I guess we individually need to decide for ourselves if we want to exacerbate that problem, although we might basically be asked to do that.
Well, I honestly don't think that we have an option. I mean, I think we can, if we can go ahead and grant these 12, but I think that starting next month, we have to at least be informed and aware of opening dates before we take our vote.
Yeah, I think you're right. Go
May I
ahead,
add
Director.
something?
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like if you all do make a motion and by majority vote to approve these full service restaurant applications before you today, what I'm hearing is for next month, what you would like is either in your support packet to prep you for this meeting and or also on the agenda, it would be helpful to have those projected opening dates there so that you can look at these.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can make that happen.
Thank you. Well, if there's not any more questions, I would be looking for a motion. So there are probably there are a couple of options here. There could be a motion to fully approve, approve the full list. There would also potentially, there could be a motion to approve some subset of this list, but I'll look for. a
I'll
motion
go ahead and
either
make a
way.
motion to approve the list
Okay, thank you.
with the noted conditions.
Great. Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second for this month only.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Tui. Second from Commissioner Tui. Any further discussion? I will go ahead and vote. All in favor? Are there any opposed? All right, we'll rule that motion carried. Craig, you've got limited service restaurant applications to share with us.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. Almost afternoon, I guess. This month we have 7 applications for the limited service restaurant. A couple of updates. Item number 1, China Star Chinese Restaurant is no longer conditional. And item number 2, Hannah Ramen Bar in Park City. There is a violation history that was adjudicated. It was settled in March of this year. It was a different location, different management. However, it was the same entity. There is a representative here if the commission does desire to speak to them. Those are the only updates to the agenda. All of the other items are represented accurately on the agenda, and statutory requirements are met for those items.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions of Craig or the Hannah Ramen Bar applicant? All right, if not, I'd be looking for a motion.
I move we accept.
All right, thank you. Moved for acceptance by Commissioner Orton. Is there a second to that? All right, seconded by Commissioner Terrazon. Is there any discussion to this motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, I'll rule that motion carries. All right, Craig, some restaurant beer only applicants.
Yes, thank you again. Restaurant beer only applicants. We have 2 applicants. Both are conditional. Otherwise, they do meet statutory requirements.
Are there any questions on these restaurant beer only applicants? All right, be looking for a motion.
So moved.
All right, move to approve by Commissioner Jacobson. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I'm gonna give it to Commissioner Orton. The motion has been seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Are there any opposed? All right, Anita, we've got a hotel applicant.
Good afternoon, commissioners. We have one hotel applicant, Le Meridian and / Element Hotel in Salt Lake City. They're requesting 4 sub-licenses, a full restaurant, a hospitality amenity, a banquet catering, and a bar. They are conditional based on their business license, manager training, and will require a final inspection. Otherwise, the applicant meets all statutory requirements.
Thank you, Anita. Are there any questions? All right, we're looking for a motion.
So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Orton. Moved to approved by Commissioner Orton, seconded by Commissioner Tu. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right. We'll move, well, that motion carries. Moving on to, we have one on-premise banquet catering applicant, Mike. Okay. 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 Let's go ahead and, no, that, you know what, please go find him. I'll go ahead and I'm just gonna turn the time over to Director Clayson and Deputy Director Meyer for an operations update.
Great, thank you. So we just wanted to clarify, there's been a lot of talk about a wine subscription service in the media lately. And of course, since SB 14 was passed, which was a special order program bill that kind of moved wine subscription service or a wine club under that division and kind of spelled out a few additional things about it. And of course, that conversation and legislation is a follow-up from several years ago during session when you had the wine services amendment by then House member Senator Mike McHale, who, was a representative at that time. But we just wanted to clarify a few things because we have received some inquiries. And so we thought this would be a really helpful and opportune time to do that. But it's been reported in the news that Utah has, its first wine club. And so just wanted to make clear, this is not a DABS wine club or wine subscription service. They're referring to a private wine brokerage that is using our longstanding special order system that is available to all Utahns who want a special order products. Of course, we have someone who's sort of doing a reoccurring curation of particular products. This has been occurring legally, safely, all within the operational guidelines of our agency. Our team is working really hard to develop our official Utah Wine Club as allowed and funded via the previous legislation I referred to. There's a lot to do before we're ready to launch or talk about the details of that project. And I'll update you on that project as we reach the important milestones, including a possible formal request for proposal. Something else I wanted to just stress, because it's been a little unclear, that the business that is currently doing these reoccurring curations includes delivery. I want to make it really clear there is no home delivery in the state of Utah. That's something that is, not permissible in 32B. So customers are using this special order program curation. They still do need to pick up their items at a state liquor store. They're aware of that. But again, this is, we've received inquiries, so we just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page there. Again, this is how we handle all of our special order items, which again are available to everyone who is of legal age to purchase alcohol. And we think this is a commendable thing, and we're glad that customers are being able to, their needs are being able to be met in this way. Very important, Senator Stevenson had let us know, as we head into this celebratory sort of weekend, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, plus All Saints, All Souls Day, there will be added law enforcement out and about this weekend because of all of the additional festivities and fun that people will be participating in. So again, this is not to trap anybody or anything. This is because law enforcement wants to be available and be present to ensure public safety. But we want to make sure that our licensees, please serve your patrons responsibly, as we know you want to do. And for all of the, public out there that might be consuming safely and responsibly, please celebrate responsibly. If you're going to be traveling to and from events, parties, get-togethers, please either have, consider a designated driver or consider using a rideshare program or something so that you can get to where you're headed safely without negatively impacting anybody else as well. So those are really our two main operations updates for you. We are in the middle of a ERP sort of migration, which is very tech detailed and specific. This is a huge project and undertaking. We're into like essentially day 2.5 of it. Little bumps in the road, but the DTS team, our team, as led by Cade Meyer, is working really well on navigating through those. And I expect that Cade will have a great report out to all of you next month when most of that is tied up, done, fixed, and everyone is happy and can breathe a sigh of relief related to the completion of that migration. That's all we have.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I would just ask, thank you so much for those updates, Director Clayson. And then in the interest of time, I would just ask the commission if you have any questions to go ahead and follow up with Director Clayson offline. Mike, we skipped a couple of agenda items that you have the information on. Can we go back to, on-premise banquet catering applicants? I don't even know what number it is. G of item 15.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for your patience. Yes, we have one applicant for the on-premise banquet catering. It's Cougar Ridge Resort in Torrey. Their application is complete and they meet statutory requirements.
Are there any questions for Mike on that application? So seeing none, I would be looking for a motion to approve. All right, moved by Commissioner Orton. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Tui. Any discussion? Go ahead and vote. All in favor? Are there any opposed? All right, I'll rule that motion passes.
Mike, reception center application, Cedar Rose Estate in Parowan.
Right, we just have the one, the Cedar Rose Estate, they're conditional. Other than that, application is complete and they meet statutory requirements.
Are there any questions on this one? Do you have the capacity on that one? Like the seating capacity?
Yes, it is. They have listed 300.
Thank you, Mike. Right, if there are no other questions, I'd be looking for a motion to approve. All right, moved by Commissioner Orton, seconded by Commissioner Tu. Any discussion? All right, looking for a vote. All in favor? Are there any opposed? All right, we'll rule that motion carries, and it looks like that last item there, item I, has been stricken. So with that, let's go ahead and move back to item 15B, bar establishment applicants. I've made a recommendation at some point. I would like to consider a vote on that, but I do think that what we've been looking into for verse will be instructive. All right. Mike, do you want to share with us?
So I was able to verify with the fire marshal that versus fire needs to be signed off by Mr. Rep, but everything is complete on that end. However, yes,
I'm like working with, it just, the shovel just keeps getting deeper and deeper here. And this is the last, so Salt Lake City 2 years ago implemented a new beverage permit.
Can you please
speak into the microphone? I won't do it, sorry. 2 years ago, Salt Lake City implemented a new beverage permit that had to go into effect. We, just like this fire situation, have met this head on and it will be signed off by Friday. That is the last small
we'll come back to you. And this is what I was kind of getting at, because I guess for me, where I am right now is I'm thinking about this as kind of what are the priorities, but then also acknowledging there's variation in when, because again, the consensus of the commission feels to me like it is this readiness to open. And so there is variation in this kind of prioritized list in that. And so just trying to work around that. So we can get to the point that if they really are ready to go before Thanksgiving, we're figuring out how to get there. I feel like in the case of Verse, it's met kind of the threshold that I'm thinking, like that I personally am comfortable with. But that's why I just want to hear a little bit more.
Yeah,
Any more?
and that was the main thing. I just want us to kind of figure out where those lines are. What is our line? What is ready?
So can I ask a question? If we do have the special commission meeting and we have Lit and Edison House come before us and say, we're close, we think that we will by today or tomorrow or Friday. I just want to make sure that we are treating everybody fairly. And so I just want to say that out loud so that when we get to the special commission meeting and we have the same conversation, that we are having the same conversation. And I think with that, I would favor approval today.
Right. And
Thank you.
I think what puts it over the line for me with Verse is, first of all, they do have a temporary business license already. We have assurance from the city that they will they should be granted a business license today. So if someone comes to us, I just don't know how we say, I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait 3 weeks because you aren't going to have your business license for 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. No,
And I agree with Commissioner Tui that if you're in communication to the other two applicants with staff, then we should have all that information. And we can have this kind of same thing happening where if we have to call the city, your compliance officer can keep us in the loop. And I think that's the most important thing, that we are willing to look at all those things if you're in communication with us and we have all the information.
I think one big important thing is the defining vocabulary. What is immediate? What does that mean to the commission? Is that today? Is that 48 hours? Is that 72 hours or 5 days? I think that's something that each of you are going to have to really dissect and put that into what does immediate mean for the commission? Does that mean me today that we were able to verify things over the phone? Or does that mean immediate for George and Charlie who are fervently trying to get open? What does the word immediate define for the commission in the future? How do you work that? What does it come down to?
Well, and I think that for us, of late, immediate has meant within the next 3 days, because it does take time to get your liquor from us. It takes time to, kind of make sure.
And that's the turn of the table there, is you guys are asking us to be immediately readily available, but then the commission doesn't issue us for 24 hours. So it's not an immediate turnaround, it's a give and pull a little bit. So that's kind of where we are today, We can ask for immediate on one side, but we're not willing to offer immediacy on the other side. So, and before I talk myself into a corner, I'm just gonna.
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a very good idea. Yeah, very good idea. And I would just say, again, for me, I want to see that, just because it's something, that threshold of the business license. And I feel like hearing from the city that it will happen today, that for me, I trust that you'll work as quickly as possible to open. But to your point, there is some timing on our end and everything else. But for me, it really is, are you actually able to go? And
Did we just forget about the Friday thing though? What was the Friday thing?
No, we're not forgetting
The
about
beverage.
Friday. It's signed off and issued on.
well, and that's an issue. That's other commissioners might have an issue with that.
Well, we were talking about that, a new issue about Friday approval, but now we have approval. We have a notification that city will issue a business license today, so.
Well, no, let me be transparent here.
Yeah.
The state buyer has to have my signature, which I will leave here, go and sign that paperwork at my building. Then Rachel with the city health department is also requiring some more, just a couple of signatures from me on my plan and on that brew gas permit. So everything is signature based, and that can happen. I can walk out of here, go to the building, sign for state buyer, leave there and go to the county health department, work with Rachel.
So what was on, what was on Friday?
Just the opening.
Oh, no,
Beverage.
The brew,
The brew gas permit.
yeah.
So that's all involved in what's with the health department. That's all through, it's all through
Yeah.
Rachel. So.
Okay,
Yeah, there's nothing
Yeah.
specific for Friday other than us opening on Friday.
okay. And we've heard back from the city and the city is telling us they will issue as soon as the signatures are on those documents. Okay.
So bottom line, Jeremy, is all we have left to do is a perfunctory signing of certain things by the applicant. There's no discretion left in the city, the county, or any other government agency with regard to this property.
I don't know what perfunctory means.
Okay. Well, let me ask you
I'm
this.
kidding.
Is there
I'm
any
kidding.
discretionary act that is the city or anyone else can do at this point in time?
just
to
teasing you,
Stop
mate.
the opening.
Jacobson's about the book, right?
I'm just messing with you. They're waiting for two things. So City of Salt Lake, they're waiting for two things, just to be abundantly, patently clear. They're waiting for the signature on fire and they're waiting for this gassy thingy. Health Department. So Health Department did their inspection. Their inspection's fine. They have one final element to look at, and that's this thing, whatever it's
So
called.
that is a discretionary item the health department has left open.
That is, those indeed, those are the two things that we're waiting today. The city will, once they have those signatures, the city will we have confirmation that the city will again move forward and process the license, and they can issue it the same day they receive those two signatures.
The reason I'm asking the question that way is kind of a follow-up to what the chair has been talking about in terms of the certainty and trying to draw a line that we can use with everybody. And it would seem to me that unfortunately, the word, if any agency has discretionary ability to kick the can down the road, then that in effect means that it's the same as our other applicants who are waiting to have certain things done. And what I'm trying to do is see if the line is drawn here, that we are beyond the stage where any agency has any discretionary ability to issue any permits or licenses.
I feel like there is sufficient context that's been provided to make that judgment individually. The motion has been seconded. I'm going to go ahead and call for the question. All in favor? Are there any opposed?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to rule that that motion passes with one in opposition.
Sorry, Chairwoman, we lost reception. Could we just have clarification on that? That was the motion to give Verse the license. Is that correct?
Yeah, okay, let me go. Let's go. Yeah,
Sorry,
the
I'm
motion,
sorry.
the motion was to approve a license. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I thought that you voted. The motion was to approve the license for Verse. Just because we've got the this virtual issue and it sounds like things have cut out. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vicky, can you help us with that?
Commissioner Tui? Aye. Commissioner Gordon? Aye. Commissioner Terrazon? Aye. Commissioner Jacobson?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Commissioner Parrish?
I had a question. That is this conditional upon all of these approvals next week? Or is it ready to go now with approval?
It's based on my signature. So I leave here, I go to the, oh, sorry.
I think that should be a question for the chair.
I think it's on, yeah, it's okay. It's conditional. Yeah, that was the motion. I think that's how it was in our agenda, right? I was just, sorry, I was just, yeah, but implied, yeah.
It can't be conditional because we don't have any right to put.
Is if they don't have all the statutory requirements.
Yeah.
met. Yes.
Yeah.
Want to say that one?
Okay, so it is, I'll say this and then Tiffany's gonna verify. This, as the agenda shows, this is a conditional, the license is conditional because we're awaiting that business license, which we have a signal that they will get it. And Commissioner Jacobson is right. It's gone for 18 months if you know, but that is what we're voting on.
I will openly, I would relinquish our license if this does not go. So.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
will tell them-
Well, let's keep, we're in the middle. I feel like now I've really, Jeremy and I have been talking about Robert's Rules of Order. I think we're way out. Like, we'll have you look it up. So Commissioner Parrish, I believe that we're just in the roll call vote.
My question is this fair to the others, whether we're approving a conditional and it's not fully prepared and we could have a special meeting next week when they are not unconditional? And
So Commissioner
move
Parrish,
in.
is your vote no, given those concerns? Is your vote no?
My vote's no.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and rule that motion carries with one in opposition. So the approval's been granted, conditional approval's been granted.
Because she was signed out. Okay. Thank you, guys. We will-
All right. So in this prioritized list, I would like to go, this is at the will of my fellow commissioners because it would have to come in a motion and be voted upon. I would like to signal our intention to consider the other two applicants in this prioritized list in a special commission meeting to happen prior to the November 29th meeting.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah,
on
I'd be
that?
looking, yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I'd be looking for a motion. Okay.
I'll make the motion that we do hold a special commission meeting to consider the other two prioritized applicants before the Thanksgiving break
And I would
on a
second
date
that.
to be determined.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Tui on the motion. Thank you, Commissioner Orton on the second. Is there any discussion to that motion?
My only discussion is availabilities. I hope that we will try to make sure that all the commissioners can be available for that.
Great, thank you. Assuming this motion passes, we'll work with Vicky to look at availability.
Well, but the way these applicants, the way they're lined up right now, we're really looking at something, I think, the week of the 14th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And so I think we ought to look in that time frame. And I can just say that I do have some court appearances and things like that. But for the most part, except for probably the 22nd, I'm available.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. All right. Let's go ahead and call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? All right, we'll move that motion carried. Before we go to public comment, thank you for joining us. I'll go just 1 minute. Have we had any virtual public comment? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and go into in person. Welcome. Thank you. Good to see you. Please go ahead and state your name for the record.
Yeah, this is Tim Dwyer from Fisher Brewing Company. And I would just urge the commission to consider that we are totally ready to go. The demand is high. While we do have our expansion under construction, we can use a license today. We're a high volume licensee. There shouldn't be any issue in us receiving a license, and I'd really urge the commission to consider us as being in the running for this special hearing as well.
Could I ask, have you considered applying for a winter seasonal?
It is better for our business long-term to have the certainty of a liquor license long-term. So we're going to continue our bar application license.
And when is your expansion projected to be completed?
Early in Q1 next year. So yeah, I don't think
I've
that
heard like February.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right where we're at. We're hoping to have that for our anniversary, our 6th anniversary in late February. But I do feel that we are ready to go. We have a good operational history. and that we should be in consideration for these limited licenses that are available.
How many seats do you have right now?
Right now, our capacity is about, I think it's about 200.
And how much of that is inside versus outside?
Right now, we have a relatively small inside space now, but we're more than tripling that with our expansion.
Well,
Let's assume I come there on January 10th, the coldest day of the year. How many seats have you got?
We've got about 99 inside. But we do have heated outside patio areas as well.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
Keep us posted. Thank you. Does anyone else here in person wish to make public comment? And I should include my fellow commissioners in that as well. Okay, with that, I'd be looking for I'm sorry. Thank you. Welcome. Sorry.
Thank you, everyone, for staying late. Tim Ryan, About Time Pub and Grub. I'll be succinct. I won't be here until I have a business license, so rest assured we're good there. It's coming up though, and I'll look forward to getting licensed at that time. But I want Commissioner Tui to address your question. Yes, myself and others, we do go to the legislature. We have been there. I was on Capitol Hill last week and met with Speaker Wilson. We had a productive meeting and I was glad to be able to share with him what we are facing as applicants. One of the ideas, and I hope the commission might find some traction here, is knowing that there are multiple unused tavern licenses sitting on the shelf. And so as bar operators, we see tavern operators smartly moving into the bar category because they know it's a broader spectrum of customer. So one of the requests we made is maybe in the legislative session or some special session, they could consider converting these to bar licenses. That is a Band-Aid, would be short-lived. However, it would help alleviate the pressure and give some time for the legislature to make real change if they will do so. The quota system in our state is set ridiculously high. That was adjusted some years ago to be we not only have the strongest quota system, but when it was adjusted, I think in 2018, now it is by a long shot. No other state in the country even comes close. And certainly this system does not reflect our ever-changing demographic here. But, you know, some of the others maybe still in the room or not, the applicants, the business people in our community, the hospitality leaders. We're opening businesses because there is economic demand. We're passionate about what we do. We love our businesses. We want to grow them. But again, it's because there is economic demand. And so we need our legislature to consider that. And I know there's many other factors in this state, but that's important. We should be economically driven in our state. I wanted to mention something about the Cub program, and I appreciated your presentation about the positive results from that program. And I'm not sure what's the venue or how I could get involved, but there are some thoughts. The current Cub program, although there needs to be one, right? We're supportive of that, and thankfully we pass in my organization a lot. But it's a vicious loop, you know, of really whacking the licensees on the head when a violation occurs, especially at sale to minor. The penalties to the owners and licensees are severe. They are very minor to the person actually serving the undercover buyer, and they don't incorporate any type of training or continuing education or anything that would, you know, make it a solution to the problem of serving underage customers. It's just, again, Cub comes in the door, some unlucky server, you know, serves that person. It's a big upheaval at that moment. The licensee gets absolutely torn apart, and then everybody moves on. And so, you know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. And currently, this program that could be so much better and so much more effective isn't meeting that need, I would say. So that's that. And then also, is there going to be anything coming from the commission? I think electronic driver's licenses were on the verge, and the licensees, some that I represent through Salt Lake Area Restaurant Association, where I serve, are quite curious because I think that program is on the precipice of being launched, and we're unsure how to respond to that in our business and make sure that we continue to do our jobs IDing.
Can I ask just, Mr. Ryan, first of all, thank you. And we hear you, especially on this issue of the kind of employees in the mix of the violations. This is something that I'm really interested in, and I think has to be part of the conversations as we're looking at revisiting the penalties and in the violation list and settlement. So thank you. We hope that you'll continue to provide your feedback there. And then there are also other places with public safety to provide that feedback. On your question around electronic driver's licenses, in the interest of time, this is what I'd like to ask. Can you follow up directly with our Deputy Director, Cade Meyer? And then I'd also like to ask that the staff prepare an update for the commission for the next commission meeting to share with the commission. Great.
If I could, one of the things I had said when I'm making my presentation was we want to have input with regard to the grid. And I kind of started to put together a new grid, and I put the name server up there because I'd heard you say that before. So what I really like is if you can give us some good input on that issue, because that is something that we are going to look at. And we're looking at what other states do. And it's really kind of interesting. Your point, I think, is well taken that we do look to the licensee, I think, more and what I've seen in the other states than we do. What do we do about the server who really says, you know what, it's like I get fired from about time. I'm going to go down the street to whoever. Right?
I think it's through the Department of Professional Licensing or Occupational Licensing. There could be a really effective tool there for not a huge cost or burden on a server or bartender, but I'll get those thoughts.
Very interesting idea, and I think we'd like to hear more. Okay.
Okay.
Any other comment?
Thank you. Thanks for listening. It's been a long day, so
Thank you very much.
appreciate your help.
Appreciate it. I'll keep my eye on the microphone as I ask for any more. Jeremy.
Public comment, right? So I get to say something. Just as an FYI, servers that pursuant to a violation, they have to go through a criminal process as well. So it's not just a slap on the wrist from the DABS. They're cited criminally with a misdemeanor charge. So it's not just slap on the wrist. There you go, be on your way, go to the next restaurant and serve. Let's be clear about that.
Thank you for adding that. And then of course, we'll look forward to a lot more briefing and context as we work through this project, but thank you for adding that clarification. All right, let's go ahead. If we see no more public comment, let's go ahead and look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, moved by Commissioner Orton. Is there a second? Second. All right, and no discussion, all in favor? All right, I'll move that we're adjourned.